and welcome to the Unsure to Unstoppable podcast. My name is James Dunn, and I was adopted. I grew up in a household with an alcoholic father, and I was arrested for attempted armed robbery when I was 17 years old. Why do I share that with you in this podcast introduction? Well, because while you may not have gone through any one of those specific set of circumstances yourself, you've had your own version of them, whether it's a loss of a job, a divorce, you were picked on as a kid. Something in your life has created this little voice in the back of your head that's made you doubt yourself, question yourself and what you're truly capable of. As a podcast host and as a mindset coach, what I do is I help you tell that little voice in the back of your head to shut the fuck up, get out of your own way, and move from unsure to unstoppable. And how I plan to do that is each week I'm going to bring you stories of inspiration, motivation, my own challenges, my own struggles, as well as those of others who've gone through challenging times, rough times, things that most people maybe just didn't think they could ever get through, but have not only gone through them, but come out thriving on the other side of them. And through the sharing of those stories, I hope to help you see that you're not alone in this journey called life. Whatever you've gone through, whatever challenges you're having right now, it doesn't matter. You are a fucking badass and you deserve an amazing, incredible life, and we're going to help you get there. So with that, enjoy today's show. All right, welcome back to the show. So this week on this episode, what I want to do is I want to have like a follow-up to last week's episode. And in last week's episode, I shared with you the one common denominator between you and every single struggle that you've ever had. And if you have not listened to that episode, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause right now and I want you to go back and listen to that episode because this one's going to make so much more sense if you heard that one first. So here, go take a minute. Okay, welcome back. I trust that you went back and listened to the previous episode if you had not heard it before. But why I do that is because after I recorded last week's episode, the last episode, after I got done recording it, I realized I may have given you the impression that you were somehow broken, that somehow you were not whole, you were not perfect, because I'm going to recap super quickly, even though you just listened to the previous episode or you listened to it last week. I shared that one common denominator between you and every single struggle, challenge, failure, anything that has not gone right in your life. That single common denominator has always been you. No matter what you've gone through, it's always been you is that one thing that's always been there. And if you don't fix you before you change situations, relationships, whatever, then you're always going to end up back at the exact same place you were at before. Now, having said that, again, it may have given you this impression that you were broken, that you were not whole, that you were not full, that you were not exactly who you need to be. And that's bullshit. You are full. You are complete. You are whole. You are everything that you need to be. And you can also improve. You can also become better. And this is one of those weird kind of concepts that we need to learn to hold on to, that two almost seemingly opposing ideas can be happening at the exact same time. You can be perfect. You can be whole. You can be everything that you need to be. And also work to improve yourself, work to grow, work to be better than you were before. So I don't want you to take what I shared with you last week and say, well, wait, I'm fucked up. I'm broken. I'm not exactly who I need to be. You are, but you can still evolve. You can still grow to that next level. And that's what we want to talk about this week, is recognizing that you can be where you are right now, be perfect, be whole, not be broken, because you're not, and still growing further. One of the things that I share with my clients to help them through this is going through an exercise I'm going to share with you here in just a minute. But to give you a little bit of backstory, so myself, I share my story all the time, these challenges I went through, these struggles that I went through. There's so many things that have happened in my life that I felt caused me to believe that I was a certain way, that I had this certain destiny in life, that I had this certain path. This is who I am. This is what's expected of me. This is all I'm capable of. And this all came from these events that happened in my life. I thought they proved a certain thing to me. They didn't. They just were events that I chose to give meaning to. Now, you have gone through your own set of those circumstances. You've gone through your own challenges, your own struggles, and you've given meanings of those as well. And based on of those, you've given yourself an identity. You said, this is who I am. This is what I'm worthy of. This is what I'm capable of. This is what I deserve. What I want you to do is take some time, figure out what those challenges are, those struggles are, those things that you went through that you are latching onto that are creating your identity right now, because these are very important pieces of the puzzle to getting you to where you want to be. You first have to identify where you are right now. And once we do that, if these pieces of the puzzle, these identities that you're holding on to are limiting you, we can break through those with this exercise I'm about to share with you. What I want you to do is take one of those pieces. I'm going to just use the very first one. If you go chronologically in my life, I was adopted. I was adopted when I was 6 months old. I don't know anything about the backstory of, what my biological parents are like, what their situation was, where they're at now. I've never had any interest in digging into that story, at least at this point in my life. Who knows, maybe someday. But at this point, I have no idea what any of that was. Earlier on in my life, subconsciously, I don't think I ever did it consciously, but I think subconsciously, I had this belief that I built in myself that I was not worthy of love. I mean, look at it. When I was born, my biological parents didn't love me enough to keep me. They kicked me down the road. They said, here you go, get the fuck out of my life. These are all these words that I used in my head subconsciously. I used all these stories and all these beliefs that this meant I was not worthy of happiness. I was not worthy of success. I was not worthy of anything, any life that amounted to whatever, because look at how my life started. What I eventually did, once I got more into my own personal development journey, once I got into digging into how can I become the person that I want to be, or is it possible for me, or at least opening the door to that idea, I did some research. I started questioning this belief that just because I was adopted, I couldn't have success, happiness, whatever I was looking for. What I did was I found someone, multiple people, who had gone through the same thing I had gone through. And that's the exercise I want you to do. Take whatever this story is that you're telling yourself, this event, this occurrence, this thing that's happened that you are holding on to and using as the excuse of why you can't have what you want to have, and disprove it by finding someone else who's done this. For the adoption story, the one person that I was able to find that almost every single person on this planet, or at least anybody that's watching this video or listening to this podcast, is going to be able to connect with is Steve Jobs. If you have an iPhone, if you're working on an iMac, if you know anything about Apple, then Steve Jobs has affected your life. And Steve Jobs was adopted. Holy fuck. This dude was one of the richest people on the planet. He's one of the most successful people on the planet. He has impacted literally billions of lives through what he did while he was alive, and he was adopted. So if Steve Jobs can have that big of an impact on the world and have his success, have his happiness, have his joy, and yes, the dude had his flaws, and not everybody loved Steve Jobs, but he was able to achieve the vast majority of what he wanted to achieve in his life, and he was adopted. He let go of that story, and he struggled with it as well, but he was able to move past that story to create the life that he wanted to live. If Steve Jobs can do it, I can do it. And there's been many other stories. Jamie Kern Lima, she had, I believe it was It Cosmetics. She recently, or at least a couple of years ago, sold it for $1 billion. Yes, with a B, $1 billion. She was adopted. If you've ever been to the fast food restaurant here in the Midwest called Wendy's, Dave Thomas, the founder of Wendy's, he was adopted. So there's multiple examples of people who have been adopted who've gone on to live happy, wealthy, productive lives, but they started out their life in the exact same scenario that I did. Moving on, beyond that, another story that I held on to was growing up in Benton, Illinois, very small town, 8,000 people. You hear me kind of reference it a lot. Nice little community, nice little town. A lot of friends that I grew up with still lived there. I got a lot of extended family. Well, it's diminishing, but I've got extended family that still lived there. And I go back and visit it all the time. Nice place, but it was not a place that I felt taught me what was possible in life. There was not a lot of opportunity. It was a very blue collar community, very hardworking community. To get anywhere in terms of finances, you had to work at a coal mine, bow factory. Nowadays, it's like a warehouses or the tire factory. You've got to work these really hard labor manual type jobs. And that was never something that resonated with me. I always knew there was something beyond that. There was something bigger than that I could do to get me what I wanted, but I didn't see that as an example. I didn't see that shown to me really anywhere in my life. And that's what I believed for the longest time, and kind of followed that path until I stumbled into an opportunity that gave me some hope, a different opportunity, kind of followed that path. And then once I got into my deep personal development dive, I started researching, well, wait a minute. Okay, if I came from a very small town, are there opportunities out there for me, even though I've had this background? And what I was able to find was not only coming from a small town is it possible, coming from my very own small town, it is incredibly possible. One person that you might be aware of, especially if you're into movies, is John Malkovich. He's been twice nominated for an Oscar. He's won an Emmy. He is a very successful and well-revered actor. He's actually had a movie made about him, and I'm not talking like a documentary, but somebody wrote a movie called Being John Malkovich, where they literally were trying to be like, wanting to be like John Malkovich. Just one of these iconic type characters, actors who so many people know. He grew up in my fucking town. He grew up in the town that I grew up in. And not only that, I found out later that my mom used to serve him when she was a hostess, waitress, whatever you want to call it, at a little local drugstore. Back then they had little soda stands and things like that. She used to serve him when he was a little kid and she was like a teenager, whatever. But like, holy fuck, this dude came from my small town and went on to become incredibly successful, create the life of his dreams, create the magic that he wanted in his life, still having gone through that same experience that I went through. Now, not only him, I mean, that would be awesome enough, but not only him, a second person that grew up in my very same small town that I grew up in, that you may or may not have heard of, depending on what your experience is, what you're into. But if you're into basketball in the NBA, you might have heard of Doug Collins. So Doug Collins was someone who played on the U.S. Olympic team. He actually won a gold medal. There's some controversy around this gold medal, not him particularly, but the U.S. Olympic team. They won the gold medal. Something happened with one of the referees, and so they tried to take away their gold medal and give it to the Russians, who the U.S. played at that time. But it's a very famous U.S. gold medal win, in men's basketball that he was a part of. He went on from that to then play for the Philadelphia 76ers. I don't remember if he ever won a title or not, but he still went on to play in the NBA. Once he left the NBA as a player, he eventually came back as a coach for the Chicago Bulls, coached Michael Jordan in his first year or two of playing basketball before Phil Jackson came in to eventually lead the Bulls to their amazing glory. But anyway, Doug Collins coached Michael Jordan. Once Doug got done with that, he went to become an NBA announcer for NBC. And then he circled back into the Bulls organization, become the director of operations. This dude grew up in the exact same town that I grew up in. He went to the exact same high school that I went to. Holy fuck. So here's another person who showed me, no matter what I believed at the time, coming from this small town, that I could grow beyond that. I didn't have to hold on to this story. All of these things that made me feel like maybe I was broken, maybe I wasn't worthy, maybe I didn't deserve success, happiness, joy, whatever it is I'm looking for in life, or whatever you're looking for in life. These things that have happened to you do not have to hold you back. They are just stories that we've given, or they're events that we've given stories to. We've given meaning to them, and we can change that meaning at any time. Being adopted means nothing. Matter of fact, I've actually reframed it. So instead of it meaning that I wasn't deserving of love, I was actually loved twice, because my biological parents loved me enough to give me up instead of aborting me. I literally could not be here right now. They could have chosen to have me aborted, but instead, my biological mother carried me full term and then gave me away. She loved me enough to give me to someone else, so that way I could have an opportunity at life. Whatever her situation is, I don't know, don't care. But she gave me that opportunity to have a life. Now, my adoptive parents, who I consider my parents, they are my parents. They chose me. They chose me. and gave me a life. They gave me an opportunity. And was it perfect? Fuck no, but it gave me the experiences I need to be who the fuck I am and be here with you right now. So I can reframe those stories. I can reframe those meanings. Whatever it is that you've gone through in your life, whatever challenges, struggles, situations that you have gone through that you're holding on to and creating these meanings around to allow yourself to feel broken, to feel unworthy, to feel undeserving, let all that shit go. Because at the end of the day, it really means nothing other than, again, what you have chosen to make it mean. And we can make it mean something negative that's holding us back, or we can make it mean something positive and encouraging, or even just make it neutral, make it mean nothing at all, and allow us to free ourselves to become who we truly want to be, who we're available to be, and who we desire to be, because it's all there for you once you make that decision that you're worthy, that you're deserving, and that you're capable, which I know you are. So get out there, have an amazing fucking day, and I'll see you next time. If you found value in this episode, please share it with your friends. Give us a 5-star rating on iTunes and anywhere else that you happen to hear it. We are just trying to celebrate life, make it better for everyone, and sharing these messages with them just helps them believe in themselves and what can be better than that.